Say the word giraffe in your mind right now. Did you hear it? You'll notice that you spoke freely, but what happens when your mind fills with thoughts that you didn't choose? Ones that just seem to appear and cause havoc, leaving you feeling out of control. You can find yourself switching between thoughts you chose and thoughts you didn't. And the confusing thing is that these thoughts happen in the same space. So how do you know which is which? Well, if a thought comes in and it's fast, reactive, and has emotional magnitude to it, it's likely to be automatic. This means it's useful to pay attention to the energy our thoughts come in with. For example, here's a real one that I had whilst making this video. Stop making this video. You're off track. You need to be focusing on a real career. This is dangerous. Where did that come from? It certainly wasn't me who said it. The space we call mind was hijacked for a little moment by something else. But what was that something else? Enter internal family systems, or IFS, a way of understanding the structuring of our minds and why they feel the need to hijack us so often. Whether that's to boss us around, judge us, criticize us, hide us away from the world, involve us more in the world, or just force us to be better in some way. Some areas that we consider our personality are the result of the same kind of hijacking, like the perfectionist, overachiever, people pleaser, or the pessimist, to name a few. But first it helps to understand how and why this happens in the first place. This model explains that the mind isn't just one mind, but many minds that have their own individual roles and agendas which have formed over time based on our experiences. I know it sounds abstract, but stay with me here. At first the mind appears as one unbroken chain of thought, morphing between different moods or states, but through the IFS lens, you see individual roles jumping in and out of the spotlight of the mind, which together form the functional thinking person in the world. Each individual part of the mind has its own motivations and perspectives. You might have a logical part jump in to figure something out. Then you might have a humorous part in to have more fun in a conversation. And then you might have a depressed part to shut you down from the world, all within the space of one day. Parts themselves aren't a bad thing you need to go and fix. In fact, we need them to have a functioning mind, and they're completely natural. It's when they begin to dominate your thoughts and emotions, and in the process it can feel like you've lost your center. Like you don't know who you are anymore because they take all the space. But why do they do that? Well, we all have innately healthy parts to begin with, but as we go through painful experiences that we find overwhelming, either mentally, emotionally, or both, that's when these dominating parts can begin to form. This happens because we couldn't quite process something at the time it happened, meaning we couldn't feel, express, or make sense of our overwhelming experience. The brain makes a decision at this point and says, I will adapt to keep this locked away, because it wasn't an option to process it. This adaptation creates a part called the exile, which holds that original pain which wasn't processed, and another part called the manager, which seeks to keep that exile's pain from being re-triggered. This of course means the manager gets loud when it sees you might recreate that painful event, and tries to steer you away with those automatic thoughts that we talked about before. But it leaves us feeling miserable, as we seem to get shouted at for no good reason, and that's what leaves us feeling like our mind isn't ours. You can imagine if you have many different managers protecting many different exiles, it creates a turbulent and sensitive inner environment. When one of those automatic thoughts come in, for example, complaining about how your life isn't good enough and how you're a failure, if you start to adopt that specific viewpoint and feed that idea with your thinking, then you have blended with that part. It now speaks through you, and this happens all the time for us. It's not something we should avoid, nor is it always a bad thing. It's when they become dominating and frankly harmful towards you. From the past perspective, it's not doing anything to hurt you or make your life harder. It's just going about protecting what it feels it needs to protect. But it can become very intense depending on what it's protecting. One of the first things you can do is notice when you blend with one of your parts and just gently have that realization, oh, I was in my overachiever part, for example. That is one of the first actionable steps you can take, and it starts to create separation and begins to unblend yourself from your parts. Now, there is much more to this topic, but I think this is enough for this video. Next time we'll be diving deeper and figuring out how to get more of a sense of control and ownership over our minds. I hope you got something from this video, and I appreciate your time as always. I'll see you in the next one.